and then request. I think it was November.
Yeah. Okay.
Finally.
Finally, we get it figured out. Whew. Okay. Um, Finally, we have it figured out.
Yes, we do.
Um, Anthony, how are you doing, man? Let's first start there, and then I'll just brief the people on what's happening and how we are where we are right now. How are you doing today?
A bit overwhelmed, I was really looking
Yeah.
forward, having this interview with you. Um,
Yeah.
and also excited now that it is happening, you know.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so yeah, that's the feeling that I'm currently feeling now. Yeah. But
Okay.
otherwise, I'm doing
Um,
good, man. And yourself?
that, that's perfect. I'm good. Yeah, I was also a bit anxious that it wasn't happening. I would rather we have it, even if it's a bit late, because we can always share to the platform. So I'm very happy that we figured out a solution to this, and yeah, are finally live. So yeah, and to everybody who's gonna, who's was watching earlier and who's gonna join us now and who's gonna see this on the timeline, we had a bit of an issue with the connection, but we've kind of found a way around it now. We've figured it out. So yeah, it's good that it's finally done, and I get to speak to Anthony here, the man of the moment, as I've been saying. I briefly, we had a chat on Friday, and yeah, I really was excited to have everybody just hear about your life and what you do and the work you're doing, because I think it's really, really inspiring and it's really amazing work. And it's just everybody has to, just to kind of get a glimpse of what that is. Like I said, again, on Select TV, we're doing this where, like I said, we have so many different people from all walks of life doing these interviews. When you talk to different people who are doing amazing things, but the common thing is that it's all, we're doing things that change the communities that we're in. And I think that's the important thing. I'm all the way in Johannesburg, and Anthony's in Cape Town, but again, it doesn't change anything. That's, and again, the beauty of technology, and lockdown, the fact that we can do the interview like this now. So I think, I suppose there's benefits, there's good and bad in everything. So yeah, if you're joining us, if you're watching this on the timeline, welcome. Thank you for making the choice to actually watch this and just to hear more about what we've got for you today. So what we have is a conversation about and around education. We have Mr. Anthony Baatjies, who is an active member in the community who works for a non-profit organization in the education space, but also is involved in his own, and businesses and initiatives that he's doing. And I'm just gonna quickly have a chat with him, just get to know him and the work that he does. Again, if you want to have conversation, if you're watching the live, you can comment. We're gonna answer your questions. We're gonna comment on what you're saying. If you're watching this on the timeline, comment still. I promised him that we'll bring him all the feedback we get, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna give you guys a response. And yeah, whatever you would like to say, just by all means. And when you join us, raise your hands, let us know you're here, and we can acknowledge you. Mr. Baatjies, how do you prefer to be addressed? You work with school peoples and all that, so I need to know, are they calling you Mynheer, Mr., or how does it work? What do you
I
prefer?
think, yeah. Firstly, interesting you asked that question. Um, you know, the way you respond to someone or the way you pronounce someone's name comes with the way you can interact with that person. Right?
Yes,
So the moment it's formal, you call someone by their surname, um, your mindset changes to the way you're going to
shift.
respond to. Yeah, it shifts. Yeah, thanks. To
Mhm.
where you're going to
Yeah,
respond to someone. So I know I've got a beautiful name. So I like people calling my name because
yeah,
it's non formal, and it's easy for you
Yeah.
to connect with me, you know. So working with children and working with learners basically, you know, and community members, you know, approaching someone by their name, it opens a big platform to say, you know, you are welcome, you are free, this is an open person, you know, so it's easy for us to connect. So Anthony,
Yes.
yes.
Ah, perfect. I absolutely agree with that. I think there's definitely, and funny enough, if I can make an observation, I think when I was still in school, there was, and I only noticed this when I got to university, that the kids who went to your more private school and colleges and all of that were had this culture of calling their teachers by their first names. As a result, the relationship was different. The interaction was different. They were more confident to ask questions. They were more confident to say what was on their minds. Whereas on our, in our communities and where I studied, it was always by the last name. But
Yeah.
instantly the relationship was established, and it was always a Mr. So and so, may I, can I, and it was always limited. But I think that's great observation in terms of that, and I completely agree with it. I definitely think it builds and sets a tone for the relationship, for the conversation.
Okay.
So just can you tell me just a bit on what you do on a day to day, your 9 to 5, and also just your own initiatives on the side, and just so we can kind of set a base on the for the conversation, and we know what you're talking about today.
Okay. Thank you, team. Thank you for the opportunity. So I work for a non-government organization. It's called Gold Youth. We in a couple of provinces and countries. So we work in the Western Cape. We work in the Eastern. We're having a footprint in the Eastern Cape and the Northern Cape.
Mm-hmm.
But our work that we're currently doing is in the Western Cape. As in KZN, specifically Pietermaritzburg. It's in Mpumalanga. And then we work with two countries. It's
Yeah,
Zambia, that we have a long journey working with the country as Zambia. And we're moving slowly but surely. We are there, but our footprint just
yeah,
started. So we in Zimbabwe also as well. So our organization is more Southern Africa. Yeah. So yeah, that's where we're
yeah.
at. Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of the day to day work that you do, in terms of your responsibilities, it could also be within your department, not particularly just yourself. What does that look like? What does a typical day look like for you?
Okay. So my job role at my workplace or at the organization is I'm the field support officer. So what does that entail is I do training for the people. We call them facilitator interns. So I do training for
Yeah,
people. I train the trainers, you know. So for people watching, we run an after school program within high schools. We will
mm,
just focus on high schools because of the syllabus or the topics we cover, and I'll tell more about why specifically high schools. Um, so I train those that goes out that works within the high schools, and have that after school programs with the learners we engage with. So, and also I make sure that there's three. I'm in the Western Cape, and then there's three
yeah,
sites that we have our program running in, or it's, let me say, areas. So it is the first area, it is George. We have
yeah,
Kraaifontein. Um, it's more closer to the CBD in Cape Town, so it's more,
yes,
closer. Yeah. And then we also have Paul. So I'm also responsible for them to make sure everything happens, and supporting the field coordinator, with reporting M&E, making sure all activities is done on the ground level.
yes. Okay. Um, so talk to me about, I mean, you're involved in this in the community, and you understand, and you're working with these people. And I think the important question is, in the areas where you're involved, especially in the Western Cape or where you work, I think there's an element of you need people who understand the culture, understand the lifestyle of the areas that you work in, that kind of gives you an insight on who you're dealing with, and the kind of challenges that you're dealing with. Are you then actively looking for people who are in those communities, or how do you go about finding team members to work with?
Yeah, thanks, and good question, T. firstly, what we do is when we recruit, we call them interns. So we have a 3-year intern process with people that we ask to come and work with our with the learners at high schools. So in the high schools we work with, we get I like the question you asked. We preferably want people in the same community where the school is in, for a
Yes.
number of reasons. Firstly, and the person won't travel, so we're looking at the person's well-being also, to say you won't travel from a far distance to your workplace is a walking distance, firstly. So you eliminate the cost of transport, financially, to the
Yeah.
person. Secondly,
Yeah.
the person knows the community where the school is at. The person lives there physically. So the norms, the community's behaviors, the challenges that's in the community, the person understands. So, it's just easy for also the learners to relate to someone that they know stays where I come from. It's not someone that stays in a different community and is gonna try to, give me self-development about myself, talk to me about challenges that we are facing, but you're not from the same community. So
Yes.
you're speaking to
Yeah.
someone where, someone that lives around my street. They know what we are facing, and that's also one very big reason we choose people from the same community where we work in, or where the school is at, to work and so to work with our peer educators. That's what we call them, or learners, where we have our after school programs.
Yeah. And in terms of this being an after school thing, right? Again, bringing my own personal experience here and the areas that I've lived in, is that I very well understand that there were times when we couldn't do after school classes things because we've got different responsibilities. Families are different. You're expected at home to do whatever. Like this kind of challenge, and some of these challenges are unique to township people, right? They're unique to certain areas of the country. Is there any way that's done? Is it, or is it during the week? Is it on weekends? Is it, how do you guys deal with challenges like that?
Okay. So yeah, we do face challenges like that. Working in a township, because that's where we work in, you know, what we face, or the challenges we picked up, is our learners, or the kids in that community. They've got so many responsibilities. I have to go
Yeah.
home. I have to prepare food. So I cannot,
Yes.
attend after school programs. I have to go pick up my siblings from creche or from primary school. So there's a lot of
Yes.
responsibilities that our children have, that bounds them to not get these opportunities that our organization is bringing to them. So what we do is, when we select our group of people that we work with, firstly, we don't there's no criteria of anyone we choose. So we start with grade 9, and we choose 30 grade 9 learners. That's gonna it's a teach one reach one program. So we use them, we educate them, and for them to educate their peers, right?
Yeah.
So what we do also is we involve their parents, and tell the parents the why we want your learners, or the why that the child is attending the after school program, the benefits of the after school program. So when the parent is aware, it creates that opportunity now to say, okay, I'm gonna do something else on these days, because, or I will come and cook because I know my child will be attending the after school program, because there is benefits, obviously, that my child will get out of. It's just not something that they're attending and wasting time, but there's value
Yeah.
towards, the time that they're spending after school.
I absolutely love that. I think there's often a disconnect between the parent and what a child does at school, right? To the
Yeah.
point that it's either a parents meeting and there's like a quick update and that's it. So there isn't really like an active involvement to say, I have to, to say it's a sacrifice to do these chores, but I have to now pick up some side on a couple of days a week. I have to do the things that my kid normally does because they're at school. They are putting in this extra work. And I think it's so important to have that support, because then what it does, it also creates this environment where the kid can come home and have a conversation like that with their parent, and actually say, because I think for me, like I was saying, this disconnect between a parent not knowing anything that's happening at school and coming back from school and not being able to speak to your parent, even if you're stressed about school, even if you're stressed about how you're doing at school, it's just it's a no go zone for a long time in our communities. So I
Yes.
think, first of all, thank you. I appreciate you guys doing that inclusion and making sure the parent is involved in that sense. But I'm looking at this now, I'm listening to you, and obviously there are all the challenges that I was aware of and some that I definitely was not aware of. And you've been doing this for a long time, and
Yes.
you continue to. What is it then that, with all the challenges you're facing, with everything that you could possibly come up against you, that you're still doing this every day? You still wake up and you still want to do this, and you continue, being passionate about doing it. What's the drive for you to be doing this every day?
Okay. Okay. Thank you, T. You know, my why is I am a product of change. I saw, my lifestyle and my past wasn't wasn't good. I was very naughty. I didn't have a father role in my life, so I tend to look elsewhere, for father figures and people to adapt to where I feel I belong. So for me, the fact that people cared enough about me, to make a change in my life, and there was people,
Mm,
and there was a program that I attended also after school, but it wasn't in my school. It was away from my school. It was in a community, and it was also
mm,
organization. And I always felt that, why should all bad things happen to me? Why am I going through so much challenges in life, and I'm not
mm,
progressing? And I just felt like, I'm cursed or whatever. But when I started joining, talk groups and lesson deliveries that took place at the organization, I felt a sense of belonging there, because I felt that's where I saw it's just not me going through the challenges. There's others as well, but they are
yes,
making or they're not letting their circumstances determine their future. They're making something for their life. And that's where I changed my life to say, Anthony, you are created by God for a purpose. And your purpose is not to waste your time and your effort. There's something within you. Use it, And every day when I wake up, that's my drive to say, I know when I can say I can change one person's life out of 100 people, I know I've made
yeah,
something, I've done the world's good, and so that's driving me. And you said I've been doing this work for a long time. I've worked for in the NGO field, giving back to community since 2006. Okay, so and I'm still continuing.
mm,
So
mm,
for me, it's that passion is, I believe that I can make, and I am the change that I want to see out there. So it needs to start with me. So I'm giving back by saying,
absolutely.
by talking to them and saying, I am that change. I changed. Change is possible. It doesn't
Mm,
determine on your circumstances. You can stay at home, don't have parents, be an orphan, but you can still achieve in life. For
mm,
me, another, just on that, T, I didn't finish school when I was in high school. I had to leave early because of family and circumstances that was not okay at home. But I didn't let that determine my where I'm going. I've recently
absolutely,
graduated
yeah.
from the University of Stellenbosch. As old as I am, and I'm still proceeding or progressing in my education, to say I'm still furthering my studies, and I'm not stopping the year. Because I didn't have the
Mm,
opportunity then. But I'm not saying that because of my circumstances I cannot. I am still doing it.
absolutely. I think that's such a powerful thing. And again, like you're saying, that's your why. And I like how you started answering the question, because you said, my why is this, and this is why you were doing it, right? And I think there's different motivations for everyone who would like to do something like this, or even who would like to motivate the next person to do. But I think the most powerful thing is that we always kind of think that with with kids at school, the motivation is the same. We always think, if we say no, you're gonna get a job, you're gonna get paid well, and you're gonna be able to feed your family. we think that motivation works across the board because we go through so many similar struggles, but it's not the case, and the motivation is different for everyone, right? And again, thanks to everybody who's watching, who's tuned in. We're seeing the comments, we're gonna answer them, and I'm gonna get Anthony to kind of reply to some of them. I know there's somebody who's watching from Queen Tash asking if you could intend to move the program worldwide, and I know Masondo also wanted to know if you intend to bring the program to places like Harrismith. And I think they were asking because we had mentioned earlier that it's available in Pietermaritzburg as well. So I think before we go into, because I think that's definitely coming up later in the conversation, where I want to know what the plan is for, the other areas you guys to plan on moving it, nationwide, or can other people who have similar things join with you guys? And I think this is where I want to ask as well, because you've been doing it for so long as part of the NGO, the partnerships that you've built, the people that you work with to make it all possible, how do those relationships work? Are you guys, is it a partnership where you guys do the work, you get resources, or is it all on you to have the resources, the labor to figure out how it works and everything? How do the relationships work?
Okay. So thank you again, T, for the question, and for the viewers for asking the question. So what we do as Gold Youth, we are a franchised organization. So we have our product. We do sell it. The why we're selling it is to make profit. So we can, whatever money the business side of the organization gets in, we're giving back to the communities. So we're trying to sustain ourselves. Financially. Also, our programs get funds, specific funds for specific areas. Like our Kraaifontein area is being funded by Direct Access. Okay. So that's more in the Western Cape. So we work on funds. We're also in partnership with the Western Cape Education Department because we work in their schools. So we have that partnership, and where they are also using our product and implementing it themselves in their schools. So we train them, we give them the material, they get people that we train, and then that people go and start the after school program. They call CSAs. Okay, care and support assistance within the school. So that's straight from government, the Western Cape government that's running that initiative. But as I said, they're using our product and implementing it in their schools. So the question of how or our footprint, when or are we going nationwide? Yes, we're trying to get Gold Youth in as many provinces and countries as we can. I forgot one country. We also are in Botswana, and it just started late last year to say, we've got a footprint in Botswana also as well. So what we are trying to do is we're trying to not just work with communities, but we're trying to get the government involved, from each province to say, here's an initiative, here's the plan, this is what we would like to do, this is the outcomes that we have in Mpumalanga, in KZN, in Western Cape. This is our success stories. Can we please share the gold that we have with you? So we are willing to go out and to do as much as we can, but obviously as an organization we're also bound by funds. So funding, we need to have funding also, as I said, to get in the province for them, the provincial government, for them to come and buy in our product, and then we can obviously find means and ways of how we get funds to support the program and let the program happen in all 9 provinces and in Africa, at large. And that's our plan.
Yeah, picking up on what you're saying now, I'm something just kind of occurred to me, and I'm a bit interested in it. So say for instance, Mosondo asking about Harrismith, right? And you wanted to move it to that side. Is it a demand-based thing, or is it a proposal-based thing? Like, do you have to say? Do you think it depends more on the proposal you put together and how convincing you are, or it depends on how many people then say in their schools, we have seen this, program happening and working in the Western Cape and would love to have it in our own schools.
Yeah.
Which do you think would be more effective in catching you guys?
Yeah. So I think firstly, yeah, it's obviously, like if someone in Harrismith would like the Gold Youth program to run in their specific community or a couple of schools that they would like to run it in, yeah, we can, there is, I think after the interview, I can, leave details where people can, find means and ways of connecting with Gold Youth, and
Yeah.
they can ask questions, because we are willing, and we want to serve the community, but as I said, against funds. Secondly, as I said, we also have our product online. So you can buy our product online and then you can use it. But obviously there's copyright and, there's terms and condition that comes with, how you go about our product and using our product. So yeah, so we're also selling the product for people that, if you feel that, I can say I'm a person that came through this program, okay? And I'm sitting here and I know the program works, and hence again, my why is I feel that Gold Youth is giving me that opportunity to give back, So this is the platform I'm using to giving back to my community, because I know each and every child out there is created for a purpose and has a destiny that's bright, and each and everyone can prosper if they want to, with the right mindset, with the self-belief. So going back in, yeah, so we also sell our product online, and you may purchase our product online, but as I said, I will leave details for people, to engage with Gold and ask all these questions, because the organization allows, people from other provinces, if they're interested in the product, in the program, to say how can we, partner up, or for them to buy the program. It's just not buying the product, but it's also partnership that we're also looking at.
Okay, that's perfect. I think then let's especially when we're talking about providing a way for them to get in touch with you guys and to kind of have this conversation with you, because I think the big thing is what's happening now with COVID and lockdown and schools closing and opening and all of that stuff. Let's talk a bit about, first of all, we already established there are challenges with, on a normal year, right? On a normal school year, when kids have to find a way to be able to attend after school programs. It's already challenging as it is. And now we've got extra added challenges that are brought by COVID and lockdown and everything else. How does it look for students in our neighborhoods, in our communities, where, again, this is something that I've noticed and I've realized that some of our kids, and when I say our, are the kids and then the students who are in our communities, are going to have a wasted year. They're going to lose out on the year because, of how things are going, and they might not even pass at the end of the year because of what's been happening. But there are students and there are pupils in far better communities that are better equipped with more information, who know that, you register your student for homeschooling, they register to write exams at the end. So they have not been impacted as much as our students have, because they have the information and the resources. How does it look from where you are? How is it looking for our students this year?
Okay, thank you, T. So for I will call it privileged and unprivileged communities or learners. When I say privileged, I'm talking about learners that's parents are middle class, where they have the source of internet at home, they have a smart cell phone, they have laptops where they can access, to online learnings and platforms like that, So, and then you get the unprivileged, or the lower class communities, where even having a smartphone, no one in the household has a smartphone, So how does that learner, connect online? So coming to your question, it's very challenging, and that's what we've specifically about the learners we have within our program, and the challenges we faced from them, being part of our program. So it was, yeah, it was really a challenging year for most of our learners, where they had to face, you know, various obstacles in life. And the first obstacle is lockdown. You know, we were in lockdown for a number period, and a number of period, period of months we were in lockdown. And now they it's that one. Two, they were facing a challenge of the parent is not working now. You know, it's adding another, you know, anxiety, stress, you know, onto their plate that they're currently dealing with. So they are already dealing with that. I cannot progress in my studies, but there's also other factors, that's household factors, that's impacting, you know, and playing a big obstacle in their lives. So for as I said, it's very challenging for learners that doesn't have the opportunities or the resources to connect, you know, because most schools, even in the Western Cape, I'm speaking from the Western Cape, and I've also attended the seminar where other schools in other provinces also went online. But what about those that couldn't? How is they progressing, you know? And I'm just touching base on a chat myself and you had to say, before they were unprivileged already because of there's so many responsibilities that they have to do, that they don't have the time. You know, some of our learners doesn't even have the time to complete their homework after school because there's so many responsibilities on them, you know. So it's challenging just to go to the library and get information because they cannot, because they've got the responsibilities. Now you're adding another, the whole world is facing the pandemic of COVID-19. And now we are looking at another, you know, another challenge on them to say there's COVID-19 happening, and there's lockdown happening. I'm not progressing within my studies because how can I don't have the relevant resources to progress, you know. So what we've done is we've tried by all means and ways to support our learners, you know, to go and do home visits. Although it was lockdown, although it was, you know, restrictions, we tried to go support the learners that we know are really challenging, you know. We tried and took some material like hard copies to say, guys, you know, we went to schools, asked teachers, how can we support our learners? You know, what can you give us as hard copies so we can have that learners progressing, you know? So what we've picked up is learners are going through, as I said, anxiety. They're going through depression, you know, because of all these challenges that they are facing. And what we've done is we've created sessions around that now in this COVID period, in this pandemic that we are facing. We've created sessions around that to say, how do you deal with anxiety? What is the definition of anxiety? What is the definition of depression? Some of our learners don't know that. They don't know how to deal with that. You know, they don't have the resources to say, I've got someone that can speak to me. I've got, you know, a counselor there where I can go to, where I can lay out my cases. I've got my parents even, you know, to speak to. It's even challenging to speak to them because the parents are going through the same that the learner is going through, you know. So we've created a number of sessions, ranging from anxiety, depression, dealing with uncertainty, dealing with trauma. We looked at grief around the COVID period. So we tried by all means and ways to connect and not lose that connection with our learners, you know. And unfortunately, we couldn't reach the whole community. That was our plan, but we couldn't, you know, because we're only a handful of people and trying to do as much as we can, you know. So what we asked our learners to do is, if you've got a friend that's in the same class, please share this information with them, you know. So, you know, have that spread of information. Please give them a copy when you're done. Please call them over and help them, you know, through you know, through the equations or the tests that, you know, that we provided to you. please try to get, people that you can also, be the effective helper, to those
Yeah.
that's unprivileged, just as you. But as you said, T, it was hectic. We had learners, some of our learners wanted to commit suicide because they didn't know how to cope. They said, I'm losing out in my school year. I'm gonna fail.
Mm.
Worse and worse, our grade 12s. For them, it's their last year. They didn't know what to do. And my plans, there's no more plans for me, because my plan was I wanted to go to university, but how do I go to university if I
Mm.
didn't go to school for a couple of months? Some of them that I know, there is people that just dropped out because of the circumstances at home, and they had to go look for work because the mom or the father or the parent is not working anymore, so there's no more breadwinner. So the learners had to lose to drop out of school to go and look for jobs, just to put bread on the table. And that's the sincerity of what happened, and this whole COVID pandemic, what it caused our communities we worked in.
And it's incredibly sad because we look at it and we see, I mean, there's debates everywhere happening whether kids should go back to school, whether they shouldn't go back to school, and what decisions government are making and all of that. And I think we're looking at it as yes, we're looking at it from a safety perspective, that we want to keep the kids safe, we want to keep their parents safe, and all of that. But what we aren't then also looking at is what that safety comes with, because that safety, like you're saying, comes with all these other different things that happen at home: the depression, the anxiety, and people losing their jobs and all. So there's so many layers to it that we only look at it from, again, it's usually from your own perspective, from your own, whether you are comfortable in your life or whatever perspective, but it's never from the person who's going through it, right? It's never from the people who are actually going through everything that's happening. And unfortunately, like you're saying, they are the ones who had to drop out and have to go support their families and make a living of some kind. And I'm also, however, just as worried about them as I am about the ones who are still left at school. So what subjects are suffering? Which can they not do by themselves? Because there are some things where you can't teach yourself. There are some
Sure.
mathematics, science, languages. Sometimes
Yes.
is you definitely need assistance. You can't be at home, and unfortunately for us in our communities, as well as for the same reason that we are the ones who are hit the most about schools closing, is that our
Yeah.
parents were also never had the opportunity to be educated like that. So they can't teach us, they can't homeschool our kids. So
Yeah.
if you're at home, you are effectively suffering. You
Yeah.
can't go do the online classes, as you said. You can't access the resources, as you said. So from your experience before COVID and after COVID, during COVID, which subjects do you think have been affected the most, and which do you think will continue to be affected the most?
Okay. Thank you, T. So what we also do as an organization is we support our learners, and also the grade 9 specifically, with maths and English. Okay, so that's the two subjects that we picked up. Is most of our poor communities, that's the two subjects that they are failing. And within the Western Cape, there was they did a test, or they tried to say what subjects are our learners failing. And when you look at English and maths, that's the two. If they do pure maths or math literacy, they need to pass that subject for them to progress to the next grade. So firstly, I'll speak about English. In all our schools in South Africa, each and every subject except the language subjects are taught in English. Right? So if you speak Afrikaans, English, Tswana, Sotho, Zulu, Xhosa, it will be taught in that language. But other subjects will be taught in English. All right. So your maths, your science, your life science, your you know, all the other subjects that learners are having as a syllabus at school. So English is the medium, or the language that's been used for all subjects, you know. So if you don't know how to read and write English, how would you pass your other subjects, firstly, right? So
Absolutely.
English is
Yeah.
one big subject, and worse for our, so in the most school that we work in, it's 90% of the learners is black, you know. So in Kraaifontein, we've got Sotho and Xhosa people. In Paul, we've got more Xhosa and colored people, and in George, we've got more Xhosa people. You know, that's
Yeah.
majority learners that we're working with. And then within the other
Okay.
provinces, also we work with more black communities. You know,
Yes.
so what we've picked up is it's English is not our mother tongue, you know,
Okay.
you know, you know. So if you don't know English and you cannot speak English, how can you pass English? Firstly, secondly, for a learner to progress, just not in their school, but in life, you know. So the learner struggled throughout school, and finally, you know, the person passed or didn't pass matric. How is that person going to get a job if they don't understand English or know how to read and write English? You know, because English is
Absolutely.
the medium language that we use in South Africa, is how we connect with everyone, you know. Secondly, how are you going to go to tertiary, you know, if you cannot read and write English? That means the learner has been struggling from high school, primary school to high school, and now the learner is being, now the learner's in tertiary, you know. Or, you know, and that's something that I feel that, you know, government or the education department is failing in, because there's a structure where they if you fail thrice, they let you progress to the next grade. It doesn't make sense to me. You know, why isn't there schools like a special school where if the learner cannot read and write and has a challenge with that, have special schools, you know, available for that learners to say, okay, maybe you're good in woodwork, you know, so go and do woodwork,
Yeah.
you know.
True. Yeah.
Maybe you're good in mechanics, you can fix a car, so let the learner go and do study something that they can do, and not progress a learner that doesn't know how to read and write, that doesn't have the foundation of education, you know, because that person will struggle throughout their life. So that's, you know, so
Absolutely.
that's two subjects that we are really focusing on, and supporting our learners and giving them extra classes after school to say, you know, we try to push them. And what we've also picked up is, so there's a thing within our school that they call a merit list. Okay, so a merit list is a system where you can see the progress of a learner per term. So what we
Okay.
also do is we get all the merit list of grade 9, 10, 11, and 12, and we want to see the learners that we are working with, or how are they progressing, you know. So in term one, you are struggling with maths. Let's see in term two, is there a percentage that's going higher, you know? And if there's a percentage going higher, we need to continue. If there's none, then we go for counseling now, because the matter is not maybe it's your studies, but it could be for at the back at home. You know, there's challenges
Yeah.
that's bounding you not of studying at home that no one knows of. And our schools doesn't have that system to say, to understand where the learner comes from. You know, when I went to school, my teachers never took the time to ask Anthony, how is things at home? You know,
Good.
what is making you not progress in your, sorry, in your studies, you know. But
Mm.
we are there and we're playing that role to say, let's listen to the learner. Let's listen to that child. You know, let's try to hear what they are crying about. You know, it's not just studies, it could be something else. And what is that something else?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think just before we continue, because I see, so there were people who joined as we're having the conversation, and
Yes.
there's a couple of questions that so Polani asked, do you intend moving to Soweto, as I'm from Soweto? So just to touch briefly on what we had spoken about in terms of moving. So there are provinces that, you know, this program is available. And also it's again, it's one that's available online that people can also purchase the materials, but you can also just have a conversation and see if you can actually how you can get, you know, assistance in how your community or your school even can get involved if there's a possibility for a partnership or anything like that, Kalani. So Anthony is going to leave information before we wrap up
Yeah.
the conversation. You can get in touch, you can find a way yeah, for either yourself to get involved or for schools that are in your area to also get involved. Also, there's, like I was saying, the online option. And then Pendulo Gabai is saying that nowadays many learners have smartphones and one app that they have, and that's WhatsApp. One of the programs we did successfully in career guidance, we have successfully reached them through WhatsApp, I suppose that's what he means. And yet some may not have smartphones and data. Great work that you guys are doing. Keep it up. And I absolutely agree.
Thank you.
I think
Thank you to everyone else.
I think the benefit, or rather the advantage that you guys have, and I appreciate, is the first thing we spoke about, which is that you hire people in these communities, people who understand these challenges. So they would know the best way to reach the students, the best way to talk to the students, the best way to get information to them. So I think that's the appreciated thing. So people like Mpendulo knowing very well that WhatsApp is a way to go, because everyone has it, you know.
Yes.
If it's meetings, if it's SMSs, whatever the case is, but that's the advantage that you guys have, that the people who work in these communities understand, you know, understand these people. So I think before we wrap it up, or before we, I mean, we could talk about this the whole day.
Yes.
It's a very serious conversation, but also there's so much to say about it. I think with everything that's happening now, everybody going back to school, do you find, do you expect there's going to be a lot more on your shoulders? Do you expect you're going to have to put in a lot more work? And do you foresee that happening? Do you have the capacity to do it? Or do you think you're going to have to get creative with how you help students out? They're having to catch up now. They're having to push themselves in because exam times, you know, are fast approaching. What's the plan going forward now that schools have reopened?
Okay, thanks, Steve. First on Mpendulo's comment also, yeah. So we also started connecting with our learners on WhatsApp and sending, you know, with WhatsApp, Facebook, we send them information like sessions around loss and grief. If there's you know, work that we have and we get from, you know, we in partnership with Western Cape Education Department, so they send us a lot of, you know, books and then things we can send to our learners. So we tried, you know, to send as many things as possible. We even went as far because some of them cannot even open, like, you know, Excel and Word documents on their phones. So we went as far as screenshotting and writing up the stuff on WhatsApp. So we just make sure that, and on Facebook, that they get it. Coming back to your question now is, yeah, we've got the wow, we've got the big job ahead of us, you know. Learners are coming back, you know, surely but short. I'm slowly but shortly, I'm sure, yeah. And then also, but they're coming back in groups, you know. And what was said from the government is no interaction from any after school program or any other program, you know, that's part of a school should interact with the learners, you know. So that's the first challenge we're having. But what we're doing is we're constantly going and trying to do home visits. We're constantly keeping in contact with our learners to say, how are you doing? You know, simple question is, how are you doing? Are you still okay? How is things at home? You know, start there, you know, and that's where, you know, you'll get information from them to say, this is the challenges, and that's how we're supporting them. And our team is really overwhelmed, and I can also say burnt out with, you know, all this stress, because it's a heavy load taking someone else's challenges on yourself, you know. So we're sitting with a lot of information, a lot of challenges that our youth are going through. But I must shout out to the team of Gold, and just not Gold, and other organizations that's doing amazing work from Cape Town to Mpumalanga to Limpopo, you know. Shout out to them to say thank you and keep up the good work that you guys are doing, you know, and in your respective ways, in your respective platforms that you're using, to just give back and make sure that our community are safe, that our community, you know, has support that, you know, that they wouldn't get if we were not there.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I think it's such an invaluable thing that you guys are doing. And again, beyond just, you know, recognizing what people are doing, I think there's also recognizing the challenges that they have to go through and their own things that they have to deal with to get through and to actually get this to work. And there's obviously going to always be challenges, like you're saying, not being allowed to interact with the students now and all of that. But we still appreciate, again, just reaching out and asking and saying, how are you guys doing? How are you coping with everything? So thank you to you for agreeing to do this with us and for joining us in this conversation. But most importantly, thank you for the work you guys are doing. Thank you for, just for the many years that you've been doing it, waking up and doing it. We know for a fact that our students need it. They are definitely going to benefit from it. And we are just hoping that it's going to continue being as it is. It's going to continue growing. It's going to get bigger. A lot more people are going to get to benefit from it. And hopefully they will then get, the urge to do what you did, where you saw the results and what it's done for you. And you went back and you're like, you know what, let me pay it forward. So I hope it does the same for other people. Really appreciate that. And the last question I think I'm going to ask is, so beyond people who want to be helped by the initiative, how do people get involved? How do people, are you guys taking volunteers? Can people help in their communities? How can people get involved?
Yeah, thank you, T. I think for now, there's restrictions and stuff in place where, as I said, we cannot interact with our kids. But yes, we are open. So as I said, in Kraaifontein, we are in Wallisdean and in Bloekombos. In Paul, we are in the more colored communities in Paul, and in George, we are in Tembinkosi.
Okay.
So yeah, so if we as I said, we work with a number of schools within the communities. We also are branded with gold t-shirts, so you always see gold youth t-shirts and stuff like that. So yeah, as I said, I will leave my contact. I'm responsible for the Western Cape. And also I have contact of people in Mpumalanga, in KZN, and other provinces. We also have an office in Johannesburg. So I have contact with that people. So if you need any support or you would like to give support to the organization and the work we are doing on the ground level, we are welcome. Yeah, but obviously it's pro bono. It's not. Yeah, there shouldn't be any incentives expected. Yeah, from So we are welcome. You are welcome to support, and we want to connect with people in our communities. If you work with any of the communities where gold is in and you've got something and you want to give back, please reach out to us.
Absolutely. I definitely, I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing, and I appreciate we had this conversation on Friday, and I think we touched briefly on some of the things we talked about here. And I think it's just shared across the board that in our communities, we see the challenges and we desperately need solutions. And I think this is one of the biggest solutions that we can have. I mean, we get around the challenges, we get around everything else that you guys have to face. But for now, I think the positive thing that it's happening and that it continues to happen. So thank you so much for the work you're doing, Anthony. And thank you so much for joining us, for agreeing to do this and for being patient. And we're trying the connections and the different things and whatever we've been doing behind the, I suppose, the admin stuff, just to make sure that this conversation happens and people get to see it. And we are definitely going again. We're going to get information from you just so we can add to when we're posting the live, and we can follow this up with a couple of posts for people to see. And yeah, if you want to share this, you can share it here on this, Facebook. You can go to Instagram, you can go to Twitter, select SATV. It's going to be available there. You can root it, you can share, you can put it in your Instagram story, and you can put it in your Facebook story. Thank you to everybody who tuned in, who watched, and who asked questions and got involved. We appreciate you guys. If you could spread the word, especially about this initiative that Anthony is involved in. We're going to post detailed information on what he's doing and what the organization is and where they can be found. Make sure that you get involved, and it's easier for you to ask questions and to actually get in the conversations with. So again, thanks to everybody, but more importantly, thank you, Facebook, for letting it happen, because we tried for a long time to get this conversation to happen. I think just to wrap it up, Anthony, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on, and we are again going to be reaching out with any comments and any questions that people have after the fact. And we look forward to just sharing this information with everybody who hasn't got the information just yet. So we're going to end the live now. If you could kindly just post on your side when we're done to make sure we don't lose it and we have it up on the page. Again, thanks to everybody. We will see you guys on the timeline, I suppose. Thank you so much, Anthony. Have a great evening. Have a beautiful rest of your Sunday. And yeah, good luck for the rest of the week.
Thank you, T. Enjoy. The same to you.
Thank you so much.